The popular Portland businessman will not be having Santa Claus saying ha 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 this Merry Christmas after he was remanded in custody for the taking out of his first wife and also his second wife. I'm talking about the man himself, Everton Beachy Stout McDonald, after he was remanded in custody until February when he appeared in court. This is Links 007 TV. Let's talk, and we're about to discuss this on the program. If it's the first time you're watching, please remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and click on all so you're always updated with our latest report. We'll be right back after this short break with the full details to come. Welcome back and thanks for joining us for the program. This is Links 007 TV. Let's talk. This is where we discuss matters of national importance or just matters that are buzzing in the news. So what we want to talk about today is the life of Everton Beachy Stout McDonald, the man accused of taking out both his wife, Tonya McDonald, and also Miss Marlene McDonald, and this police believe would have been an orchestrated hit on the two individuals that were said to be the lover of this man. Now, with the development that arose last year, it has come to my attention that Beachy Stout McDonald, whose first wife was actually taken out some years prior to the second wife being snuffed out. And to make matters worse, based on the revelation that came out last year, the police launched an investigation into the demise of the first wife and have uncovered that he actually paid millions of dollars for the demise of the first wife and also paid millions of dollars for the demise of the second wife. But there have been many theories going around as to why the second wife was actually taken out, and there have been many speculations and rumors going around as it relates to the life that this female was living. And we're not here to judge her based on those speculation, but it was said that the relationship was not going as she wanted it to, and she was actually having other relationships outside of her marital one. And it seemed as if the individual, Mr. Everton Beachy Stout, found out about these relationships, and it brought him to the point where he believed as if the only option out of the situation was to get rid of the second wife. Now, might I point out to you that it was also reported that the first wife taken out was actually as a result of the second wife, meaning that during the latter part of the early years of the second wife, Beachy Stout got in a relationship with the second wife while he was still married to the first wife. It's also been reported that during the initial stage of that relationship, the wife found out about this second wife, who would have not been his wife then, would have been a so-called side chick. And the wife became so upset and they actually parted ways. But it's been reported that the wife was not actually settled with the amount of items that she got from the relationship, meaning the financial support and also assets that Beachy Stout would have owned, considering that Beachy Stout is a popular figure in the Portland area, and many believe that Beachy Stout is actually a wealthy individual. Whether or not the money drew these two females to him still remains a mystery. However, this individual is said to have the cash stuck on pile. So it's no surprise that young females would have actually garnered and captured the eyes of this individual, even so to his power and popularity in the Portland area. But to make matters even worse, there was a report coming outside of the United States of America in which an individual was actually taken out in the United States. It's alleged that this individual was actually the son of Everton Beachy Stout McDonald, who goes by the name Andre McDonald. And I don't know if you can recall the story in which Miss Andrine MacDonald, who was said to be the wife of Andre MacDonald, and she was actually taken out. And many people are believing that this is a trend within the family of Mr. Beachy Stout and Mr. Andre MacDonald, as the two were allegedly to be father and son. But I'm not going to really divulge much details as it relates to that story, but I'm just pointing out to you that these were some stories that were making rounds on the news and in relation to what really took place. But it has not been confirmed. However, I did my research and I found a picture of Miss Tonya McDonald and Miss Andrine McDonald in a photograph together. This meant that they knew each other, and that would have been the wife of Andre McDonald. These two females are actually deceased right now from the hands of their husbands. But let me get into the real details now of what I really want to talk about. And I'm about now to just update you about the latest report that we have in relation to this case. So, Everton Beachy Stout McDonald, the popular Portland businessman who is accused of taking both his wife to the land of no return, is said to spend his Christmas behind bars after he was further remanded in custody when he appeared in court. Beachy Stout now is no young son. Beachy Stout would have been on this earth for a long time. Beachy Stout could have been the grandfather of this female, which was his second wife. However, the two became lovers based on his financial stability, and the female was actually attracted to him based on this. Not saying that this was a mere fact of money love, or maybe this was a fact of her actually loving this individual to the point where she became his wife. But let me continue with the story. So, the 67-year-old businessman appeared in the home circuit court via Zoom on Thursday of last week. The elderly businessman is charged with the 2009 taking out of his first wife, Miss Marlene McDonald, and also the taking out of his second wife, Miss Tonya Hamilton McDonald. Now, I can't even go back into the details of what really transpired with Miss Tonya McDonald because that scene, it was so gruesome that one can't even begin to imagine what Miss Tonya McDonald went through at the hands of a very close friend that lured her to her demise. So, in relation to the latter charge that is brought against Mr. McDonald, his lawyer is actually stating that he would have wanted bail for Mr. McDonald. However, this was not granted by the judge, and prosecutors indicated to the judge that they are awaiting further documents to complete the case file in relation to the charges laid against him. So, in respect of Mr. McDonald, co-accused, so this individual was actually the hitman that Mr. McDonald paid millions of dollars for the demise of the second wife. And this individual goes by the name Astra Tiny Barnes, a resident of Epsom District in Another Bay, St. Mary. he remains behind bars because he has not been able to fully satisfy the overall condition of his $500,000 bail that was offered to him on May the 4th of this year. And also in a development story, this individual is actually seeking his bail as well because I think it's been reported that his mom passed away and he's actually seeking release in order to attend the funeral of his mom. And this is the individual that was actually paid the money for the taking out of the second wife. So consequently, he was further remanded in custody until December 20 for the police to verify another address where the accused could reside while the case was in court. So they do not want him to reside in the same area where the crime took place, considering the fact that he might try to manipulate the situation or residents might try to harm him based on the complication of the case. So meanwhile, Mr. McDonald has not retained an attorney in relation to the charges laid against him for the taking out of his first wife. However, prosecutors indicated that they are ready to proceed to trial with that case, and that is another matter that is before the courts as well. So Mr. McDonald is set to return to court on the 3rd of February of next year for the cases to be further mentioned. The businessman was denied bail in June in relation to both cases due to the fact that Mr. Beachy Stout McDonald is said to be a very violent individual and would have carried out many other acts that people are aware of. So, in pointing to Mr. McDonald and his violent acts, presiding judge Justice Vinette Graham Allen explained that he had been charged for cutting off a man's finger in Portland. That matter, the judge stated, however, was settled. Additionally, Justice Graham Allen indicated that along with the two wives that were taken out, there was also a witness of concern that was actually taken out, and this is a concern expressed by prosecutors who stated that if Mr. Beachy Stout is granted bail based on these revelations that came out in court, the businessman could interfere with other witnesses that are a part of the case. So there is a witness that was a part of the case in the initial stage and during the initial stage of the investigation that was being carried out on the first wife, and that individual did not even get the chance to make it to court. So on February the 1st of this year, Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of crime portfolio, Mr. Bailey, announced that Mr. Everton Beachy Stout McDonald had been charged with the taking out of his first wife and also the taking out of the second wife. So the first wife, the 50-year-old woman, was taken out in her driveway after parking her car in an area known as Brown Brook in Portland, Tony, Portland. And this incident took place in May of 2009, in which she was attacked and injured and later succumbed to those injuries. So, years later, Mr. Beachy Stout McDonald nephew, who had told police that his uncle had confessed to him that he allegedly orchestrated the taking out of Miss Marilyn McDonald. He too was actually taken out, and this would have been a confession statement to this individual by Mr. Beachistow McDonald. So the police have laid two charges against Mr. McDonald, and the police are actually theorizing now that there could be another charge that could be laid against Mr. Beachistow McDonald, and this would have been his own family member after he confessed to this person, and that individual he was actually taken out before he even get to grace the stand of the courthouse. So the another individual now that came as a shock to many would have been the second wife, 32-year-old Tanya Hamilton McDonald, otherwise called Sassy, a businesswoman of Dolphin Cove in Dolphin Bay, Portland. She was actually taken out in a secluded area. And I can tell you, I don't even want to describe what really took place in that incident. but she received a very gruesome end to her life. And her body was actually found in a burnt out Toyota Axio motor car in an area known as Sherwood Forest, Portland. The police at the time said that the information had suggested that Mr. McDonald, and that would have been Beachy's Stout McDonald, paid over $3 million for the taking out of Miss Tonya Hamilton McDonald, the police stated in a report. So, following a probe, the businessman, and that is Mr. Beachy Stout, and Barnes, another individual, and a 56-year-old man who goes by the name Delvalin Minot was actually taken into custody. And this is a fisherman of Wrench Hill in Portland. And they were all charged jointly with the taking out and conspiracy to the crime as well. So Minot pleaded guilty to the crime in September of last year, and he was subsequently sentenced to 19 years in prison and ordered to serve 10 years before being eligible for a parole consideration. So, despite that, Mr. Beachy Stout still maintains his innocence and is trying to put up a fight against the justice system, stating that he knew nothing about what transpired to his first nor his second wife. But the police are not buying the story and they are moving with full speed ahead in order for a steady prosecution to take place. So indications are that after Mr. Beachy Stout carried out that vicious act to his second wife last year, the 2009 case was actually revisited by the police, and following a subsequent file being sent off to the Director of Public Prosecution, a ruling was made for Mr. McDonald to be charged with the taking out and conspiracy of his first wife that was actually taken out back in 2009. So this was a case that was gone cold, and the police did not actually made a breakthrough in the first case. But despite that, and the new revelation that came out in the second case of the second wife being taken out, the police revisited the first case and revisited the file of the first wife, Miss Marlene McDonald, and laid charges against Mr. Beachy Stout for both the taking out of his wife. Now, a nephew of Mr. Beachy Stout, who was actually a witness to the case, he was also taken out, and the police believe that Mr. Beach's Stout had something to do with this. This is where I believe I'm gonna leave this story here for now, though. Thanks for watching. This has been Links 007 TV. Let's talk.